Okay, so before I start this video, I just want to kind of give a disclaimer out there. I am not promoting a carnivore diet. I personally don't follow a carnivore diet, and I'm not recommending anybody eat any particular diet at all. In this video, I'm simply going to be sharing the scientific evidence for really good scientific studies that show either no benefit whatsoever to fruit and vegetable intake. They're dietary intervention trials. They're like some of the most unique of their kind, where they slowly add fruit and vegetable intake over a period of time and measure the blood markers of antioxidant status, DNA damage, and inflammation in the body. So many people that suffer from autoimmune illness are forcing themselves to eat fruits and vegetables because they believe that they have to, because they believe that it's healthy for them. But what they don't realize is that a lot of these antioxidants in plants actually create antioxidant effects from actually promoting DNA damage in the body. They act as pesticides. Okay, they're natural pesticides. There's more natural pesticides in plants than there are artificial. People scared of Roundup, but they don't realize like these natural pesticides in plants, like sulforaphane and even curcumin, they actually create their antioxidant effect by inflicting damage on the body first, and then the body raises glutathione and raises its own endogenous antioxidant status in response to the threatening plant nutrients. Okay, and so people who suffer from Crohn's disease and fibromyalgia and arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and all these things, they may be eating plant foods that are hurting them and causing their symptoms. And hundreds of thousands of people, real people who you can verifiably see their profile, that they're old grandmas and all sorts of people, report in the group, the World Carnivore Tribe on Facebook, complete remission of all their symptoms by removing plant foods. So without further ado, watch this video, check out the 4 studies I linked, and realize that there's more studies of its kind. Correlation does not equal causation, and dietary intervention trials are much more powerful than large population studies that suffer from healthy user bias and meta-analysis. Also, I'm more than willing to debate with anyone, but keep it civil, no name calling, no condescending behavior, and keep in mind if I don't reply immediately, it's because I'm extremely busy. Otherwise, I really enjoy mental gymnastics with people who want to discuss science. Make sure you read the full studies before you comment, and I'll talk to y'all soon. So here goes the video. How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I'm going to be going over some of the science behind the carnivore diet and why so many people experience complete remission of their autoimmune diseases, or at least complete resolution of their symptoms of severe autoimmune disease. Thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people experience complete resolution of symptoms from their autoimmune illness on a carnivore diet. I'm going to explain the science in this video in particular because so many people claim there is none, but there are studies done on removing plant foods and the effects of it. And first of all, let me just say that if you think that this is a placebo effect, if you think 100,000 people all experiencing complete resolution of symptoms of chronic autoimmune illness such as Hashimoto's thyroiditis, hypothyroidism, gout apparently is not caused by red meat consumption, because so many people experience complete resolution in their gout symptoms when they just completely remove carbohydrates in general, but especially when they go on an all-meat diet. All forms of arthritis, that's the most common benefit that is expressed, is complete resolution of arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylosis, I don't remember how to pronounce that. But all different forms of arthritis, and especially digestive illness like Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. And blood markers from blood tests people post, their C-reactive protein goes way down on a carnivore diet. C-reactive protein goes way down, and multiple blood markers of inflammation go way down. Also, HDL generally goes way up. So let me just kind of share a couple studies with you guys. So first, we have in the Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity Journal in 2018. Research article, Effects of High Consumption of Vegetables on Clinical, Immunological, and Antioxidant Markers in Subjects at Risk of Cardiovascular Diseases. Study 2. No effect of 600 grams of fruit and vegetables per day on oxidative DNA damage and repair in healthy non-smokers. It was a randomized controlled trial that showed no effects of fruits and vegetables on oxidative damage from 600 grams of fruits and vegetables a day. That's a lot. Okay, you would think that if fruits and vegetables like had a benefit on, especially antioxidant effects, that it would appear on a blood test from 600 grams a day. All right, increasing the vegetable intake. Oh, and by the way, that one, the no effect of 600 grams, that was by Moeller P. et al. In 2003. And the first article was from Ilaria Peluso. If you just search up the titles in Google, you'll find the studies, but I'll try to be a good boy and link them down in the description. Let's see. Study number 3. A randomized controlled trial from 2011. Crane, T.E. et al. Increasing the vegetable intake dose is associated with a rise in plasma carotenoids. So carotenoids came up and rose in the plasma, but without modifying oxidative stress or inflammation in overweight or obese postmenopausal women. So antioxidant, there was visible increase in carotenoids in the plasma, but no significant difference in oxidative stress or inflammation markers. And that was in 2011. 2002, green tea extract only affects markers of oxidative status after eating. Lasting antioxidant effect of a flavonoid-free diet from 2002, Young, JF. So in this study, they actually found the opposite. They actually found that when you remove, and they were testing the effects of green tea extract by removing all plants from the diet, all flavonoids, all antioxidants, so they could just focus on green tea. And what they found is, on accident, they found that when you remove plants from the diet, you actually have a decrease in DNA damage and an increase in antioxidant markers. And they also found that green tea extract only changes oxidative status for a couple hours after eating, but there's no long-lasting effect. You get a greater antioxidant effect from removing all plant foods and antioxidants from the diet than you do from green tea extract. That's what this study showed. So now I'll read the little summary that I posted in the Instagram post. Epidemiological studies consistently show people who eat more fruits and vegetables tend to be healthier and have better health outcomes. However, in dietary intervention trials, like all the ones I just mentioned right here, where they actually change people's diets for an amount of time and use blood testing to determine the effects of these dietary changes, the benefits of fruits and vegetables actually don't appear to be as significant as experts assume. I mean, because, there's either a no change in oxidative status at all, or there is a decrease in, and there's an increase in inflammation, an increase in inflammatory markers. The first 3 studies attached, the first being from last year, shows no significant effects on antioxidant status, DNA repair, or inflammatory markers, while eating almost 10 pounds of fruits and vegetables a day. That is pretty alarming. So after eating 10 pounds of fruits and vegetables a day, there were no significant effects on antioxidant status, DNA repair, or inflammatory markers. So that's 10 pounds. And that was from the article entitled Effects of High Consumption of Vegetables on Clinical, Immunological, and Antioxidant Markers in Subjects at Risk of Cardiovascular Diseases from 2018. There were, after 10 pounds of fruits and vegetables, there were no changes, no benefits, no effects on antioxidant status, DNA repair, or inflammatory markers. 10 pounds. Okay. The last study attached was a study initially to determine the effects of green tea extract. So they were trying to find benefits of green tea extract. But the researchers accidentally found a significant boost in antioxidant status and decrease in DNA damage when they were removing the plant foods from the diet for 10 weeks leading up to the green tea extract. So 10 weeks of decreasing and removing plant foods from the diet, and they found a significant boost in antioxidant status and decrease in DNA damage from 10 weeks of removing fruits and vegetables. And I think in this study they actually found a dose-dependent response to fruits and vegetable intake. So the more fruits and vegetables that someone included in their diet, the more DNA damage they had and the less antioxidant status. So that's pretty incredible. So if these dietary intervention studies were correct and fruits and vegetables really aren't the healthy godsend we all thought, then why do studies find that people who eat more fruits and vegetables have less disease? Well, maybe it's because people who eat more fruits and vegetables usually are extremely health conscious. I mean, think about it. Most of these studies that correlate high intakes of fruits and vegetables to better health outcomes, they find that the more fruits and vegetables someone eats, particularly things like leafy greens and citrus fruits and cruciferous vegetables, like the more that kale someone eats, the better their health seems to be. Ask yourself, who in the population would be eating more kale? Okay, kale out of all things. How many people that don't exercise, don't go to the gym, and don't care about their health, they don't use supplements, they don't take medications if they're sick or whatever. How many people that eat, that are not health conscious eat kale? Zero. How many people that are not health conscious eat broccoli? Like, unless they have to eat broccoli or it just happens to be on their plate, they're not eating broccoli. The point is, the more fruit and vegetable intake someone has, the more health conscious they're likely to be. And when I say health conscious, just because you control for exercise and smoking doesn't really matter, or alcohol consumption. It's about what are you eating and what are you not eating. The more fruits and vegetables someone eats, the less likely they are to eat things like sugar, hydrogenated oils, vegetable oils, and the things that we are certain are unhealthy for us, unless you're a Ray Peat fan and you think that eating pounds of sugar a day is healthy for you. So, when you think about this critically, you realize the less junk someone eats, the healthier they are. Or the more health conscious someone is, the healthier they are. And if you can tolerate fruits and vegetables and you don't feel any bad effects from them, then sure, eat more fruits and vegetables, because people who do have greater health outcomes. But people who eat more fruits and vegetables are usually people who are health conscious. And people who eat the least amount of vegetables, who are these people? These usually are people that don't exercise, don't go to the gym, they're fat, they're sedentary, they don't eat vegetables because they're eating Doritos. And people who do eat vegetables because they realize Doritos are bad for them, and they realize vegetables are good for them, so they eat more vegetables. The same healthy user bias applies to correlation studies done on red meat consumption. The more red meat someone usually eats, that usually means the more hamburgers, French fries, and sodas someone's eating. Because these are studies done in populations. And in populations, people who eat more red meat, at least in the West, they're eating more junk, because red meat is demonized. It's looked at as bad. That is why there are links like this. But in Asia, you actually find people who eat more red meat have greater health outcomes. Look at Hong Kong, for example. You could say it's because they're wealthy and they have health care, but they had the longest life expectancy for multiple years straight and the greatest red meat consumption in the entire world. China also has the second highest amount of fish consumption. And Japan has the highest amount of fish and the highest amount of egg consumption, or they did for multiple years, while having the number one spot on life expectancy. So, it doesn't make any sense when you consider the totality of population data even. But taking that into consideration, population data has too many confounding variables to draw a conclusion from. So people are saying, oh, red meat's bad for you, and then they're using these population studies, or they're using meta-analysis that include thousands of different studies together without being able to look at each one individually and consider confounding factors, or correlation studies of LDL that are done with statin drugs, and the effective sample size is 2 people. These studies people use to say red meat's bad for you and vegetables are good for you are very, very weak. Dietary intervention trials like these, where they actually control the food intake, and they also do baseline blood markers and they test blood throughout the week, these are top notch. These should be at the highest part of evidence, right? And then that's my opinion, but so here's the thing. Maybe the reason why high fruit and vegetable consumption, people who eat more fruits and vegetables have greater health outcomes, is because people who eat more fruits and vegetables are usually extremely health conscious, which is why they eat more fruits and vegetables in the first place. They're not eating fruits and vegetables, they're not healthy because they eat more fruits and vegetables. They eat more fruits and vegetables because they want to be healthy. And because you want to be healthy, you do more things that produce better health than people who don't want to be healthy and don't eat fruits and vegetables. Think about it. If you want to be healthy, you're going to be doing all the things that the government says are healthy. So it only makes sense that the more fruits and vegetables you eat, the more health conscious you are. These people tend to exercise far more and avoid all the most harmful things in the diet: sugar, omega-6 oils, hydrogenated oils, processed foods, smoking, alcohol, etc. Maybe these people's overall lifestyles are just healthier than the people who don't eat vegetables in the average population. Just remember, correlation does not equal causation. And dietary intervention trials, in my opinion, can establish a better causal link in human health science than epidemiology studies or meta-analysis. So comments, opinions, and disagreements are extremely appreciated down below. I don't know how someone can disagree with this. It's fine if you believe it's safer to emulate all of the patterns that healthy people follow. If you wanna be like an Okinawan during the World War II famine, where they're occupied by the enemy and they didn't have enough food to survive, and these blue zone studies are documenting their diet and making you think that that's what they are have been eating for hundreds of years and why they have such great longevity. If you want to mimic the diet of intra-war Okinawa, where you restrict your calories to 1,500 a day, and you eat nothing but purple sweet potatoes, then go ahead and do that. But just realize that was twisting the data. They took data from a war famine, and they use that as an example of why Okinawans have such great longevity. The same thing can be said about even the Mediterranean countries. Ancel Keys took data during Lent. This is very common during Lent to explain, the people of Crete eat a plant-based diet, and that's why they have lowest risk of heart disease. But when anyone who lived in Okinawa knows they eat a bunch of pork, they eat a bunch of fish. They live on an island surrounded by fish. Of course, they eat a lot of fish. They cook everything in lard, which is monounsaturated fat. People of Crete get 50 to 60% of their calories from olive oil, which is monounsaturated fat. And they also eat a lot of fish. They're on an island. There is a direct link, if you look at what they actually eat, between high fish consumption and high monounsaturated fat consumption and low risk of disease. It's not because they're plant-based or because they eat plants, right? Anyway, this is the evidence. I'm not a carnivore advocate, but I am an advocate of food as medicine. And when you see so many people who are forcing themselves to eat fruits and vegetables because they think that they have to, and they're suffering from diseases that could be directly caused by these fruits and vegetables, this whole advice of eating fruits and vegetables because they're healthy does more harm than good. And so I'm not advocating carnivore diet, but I think it's important for people to look at things objectively. And when you're like Lane Norton, who says, as long as it fits your macros, you'll be fine. The reason why all these studies have conflicting evidence is because of calories. All calories in and calories out is all that matters. If you eat a Pop-Tart, you're fine as long as it fits your macros. No. And those are the types of people. I'm evidence-based. Okay, cool. Have you examined this evidence I presented here? Oh, there's one meta-analysis comprised of multiple studies that, don't even represent the title of the meta-analysis. Like, all I'm saying is, evidence-based people, they're just as bad as low-carb people or vegan people. Like, that you could say all you want, like, oh no, I'm objective, I'm all for the science. I'm not a zealot, I'm science-based. But then, like, when you're presented with extreme evidence to the contrary. So, the other thing that I want to explain is, for those of you who are not familiar with the carnivore diet and whatnot, the basic fundamental understanding, besides the evidence I just presented here, is that plants don't want to be eaten, plants do not have defense mechanisms in nature, and human beings have selectively bred these plants over time to contain less and less anti-nutrients. And if you ate like a broccoli plant in its original form, which I think was like a mustard plant or something, then most of that is toxic. Like, the plants we eat now have been selectively bred to be safe. That's the first thing. The second thing is, all of these antioxidants in plants, like sulforaphane, what's the other one? Curcumin, and all these things. The reason why they produce antioxidant effects, or they claim to, is because they actually act as stressors in the body. This has been proven by mechanistic research, okay? So, like, when you consume a high antioxidant-rich diet from plants, your body is forced to fight off these antioxidant compounds. These antioxidant compounds are actually pesticides, basically, like curcumin, and it attacks your body, basically, and the body has to raise its glutathione and raise its own antioxidant defenses to destroy the plant nutrient. This is called hormesis, and it is basically the same idea as like if someone injects a vaccination, their body is supposed to fight off that pathogen so that it builds immunity to it, right? This is hormesis, and this is the real reason why antioxidants are supposed to be good for you from plants. The problem with this is, number one, like as shown by these studies, there is a tangible increase in oxidative stress and DNA damage markers in clinical trials from plants. And the least plants someone eats, the more antioxidant status they have and the least DNA damage they have on blood markers after a 10-week intervention trial. Okay, and they weren't even trying to find that, right? They were trying to find the benefits of green tea extract. So really, so all these people who are experiencing problems from these plant foods, or just problems in general, should try just removing all plant foods for a while and see what happens. And I think that this is all very valid, especially considering these studies, for the thousands and thousands of people that experience complete remission of their symptoms. Beyond that, people who eat a carnivore diet long term, which I don't, I eat a ketogenic diet that's heavy on meats right now. People who eat carnivore diet long term do not develop scurvy, they don't develop deficiencies in nutrients or anything like that. They tend to do very well for long periods of time, and they reverse all their chronic diseases in the beginning, all their autoimmune diseases, and they don't have like a fiber deficiency. As long as they're eating enough fat, they're able to go to the bathroom. Sometimes you gotta supplement with sodium, but fiber, there are even studies, and I could pull them up on my Instagram right now, but there are studies that show the more fiber someone consumes, the more constipated they become. And when you remove all fiber from the diet, again, there's a dose-dependent relationship between lower fiber and higher bowel frequency and lesser rates of tuberculosis, so infections of the intestine. And then a lot of government agencies recommend for people with Crohn's and irritable bowel syndrome to eat low-fiber diets, depending on who it is. And if you're still including plant foods that are low in fiber, you're missing the point. But the thing is, and the other thing about those studies is, just like with a carnivore diet, it takes a couple weeks to adapt. So if you raise your fiber intake, and it'll take 2 to 4 weeks for you to be able to poop regularly. If you completely remove your fiber intake, it can take up to 2 to 4 weeks for you to be able to poop regularly. But your microbiome will adapt, and even beyond that, there are many people who have posted uBiome or whatever tests, microbiome tests, where they study the different species in their gut and the diversity, and people on the carnivore diet have higher amounts of bacteria related to healthy outcomes. And the microbiome is completely correlation backed right now. There are no causal links between microbiome and diseases. Besides fecal transplants, which is a complicated topic we can get into in another time. But there's also greater diversity, far greater diversity. I think I had read 2 to 4 times the diversity on a carnivore diet compared to a plant food diet. And that probably has to do with all the pesticides, not artificial. There's more natural pesticides in plant foods than there are artificial. Okay, so people talking about glyphosate or whatever, glyphosate and Roundup and stuff like that, like, that's cool, though that's obviously probably not healthy for us. But what about there's up to 50 times the pesticide capacity for the natural pesticides in plants. That might explain why there's greater diversity and greater health outcomes in people who eat no plants, because they don't have all these pesticides in their intestines that are naturally produced by these plant foods, killing off their microbiome. So listen, you can think whatever you want, but this is the most compelling and most important points of the carnivore diet I'm going to put in this video. But I'm not talking about, follow the carnivore tribe. Although you should check out the World Carnivore Tribe on Facebook so you can see what I mean when I say thousands of people reverse their chronic diseases. These are real grandmas, real grandpas talking about their experiences with real Facebook profiles that you can stalk if you want to be weird like that, right? To realize that they're real people and they're not just anonymous posts on the internet. You should follow that and look into it. It's a public group, You don't even have to join it. But this is not about tribalism or dogma, all right? I don't even follow a carnivore diet. This is about the real tangible negative effects of plant foods on human health. And then, anyone who says, what about all the studies that show plant foods are good for you? My question to you is it a study where someone was eating a healthy diet already with no junk, and then it's a randomized control trial where they drastically increase the vegetable intake over time and measure the effects? Or is it someone going from an American diet to a vegan diet, or from an American diet to adding more plant foods? Okay, because if you go from a junk food diet to a plant food based diet, you're going to experience better health outcomes. It's more about what you remove from the diet than what you add, to an extent. What about, or is it a meta-analysis? If it's a meta-analysis and you're just the conclusion of the meta-analysis of 10,000 different studies shows the vegetables are healthy for you. My question to you is, did you actually look through all of those 10,000 studies that were included in that meta-analysis? Because that is what matters the most in science, is what does the studies say and how did they get to those conclusions? What are the actual markers and what was the methodology of the study? Okay? If you don't have enough time to go through all these studies and you're just going to be the meta-analysis says, then don't say anything at all, because that's worthless. Okay? They use statistics and things, complicated things that most people don't understand. And what actually matters is what each study says. Combining multiple studies to get some statistical summary of all the evidence, it doesn't actually hold up to real people in real reality doing real things with their health, okay? What about the population data that shows a Seventh-day Adventists? Don't even get me started with that one. I have videos on that. Is it a randomized control trial the ones that I mentioned in this video, where they actually increase fruits and vegetables over a period of time and they measure the results, or they remove fruits and vegetables from the diet and measure the results? Please show me a study that says that, and if it disagrees with my studies, let me know. So post your questions and comments down below. This is just the first video I'll make, and I'm just talking about this, some of the science of vegetables on your health right here in this